My name is Jazzma Pryor, and thank you for joining me for Black Women of American History, part of Fleetwood-Jourdain Theater's Black History 24/7, 365. This week's spotlight is on Pauli Murray, an American civil rights activist who became a lawyer, women's rights activist, Episcopal priest, and author. A legal trailblazer whose ideas influenced RBG's fight for gender equality and Thurgood Marshall's civil rights arguments. Anna Pauline Murray, the fourth of 6 children, was born in Baltimore, Maryland on November 20th, 1910. Orphaned early, her mother died in 1914 of a cerebral hemorrhage. Her father was a teacher, principal, and graduate of Howard University. He suffered from severe depression caused by the long-term effects of typhoid fever and was eventually confined to Crownsville State Hospital, where he was murdered by a white guard in 1923. After losing her parents, Murray lived with her aunt and grandparents in Durham, North Carolina. Murray moved to New York City after graduating from high school, where she attended Hunter College and graduated in 1933 with a degree in English literature. It was at this time that she changed her birth name to Paulie, a gender-neutral moniker. She pursued gender-affirming medical treatments, but was continuously denied. Pauli Murray worked as a teacher for the NYC Remedial Reading Project. She published articles and poems and became deeply involved in the civil rights movement. She campaigned to attend graduate school at the University of North Carolina, an all-white institution. It was during this campaign that Murray developed a lifelong friendship and correspondence with the First Lady at the time, Eleanor Roosevelt. Murray worked to end segregation on public transit and was arrested for refusing to sit in the back of a bus in Richmond, Virginia in 1940. In 1941, she enrolled at the law school at Howard University because she wanted to become a civil rights lawyer. The following year, she joined George Hauser, James Farmer, and Bayard Rustin to form the nonviolence focus group Congress of Racial Equality, also known as CORE. Founded in 1942, CORE was an interracial group of students in Chicago pioneering the use of nonviolent direct action in America's civil rights struggle. Through CORE's parent organization, Fellowship of Reconciliation, or FOR, CORE members provided advice and support to Dr. Martin Luther King during the Montgomery bus boycott. Dr. King worked with CORE a little more than 2 decades until CORE abandoned its dedication to nonviolence and adopted Black separatist policies. Pauli Murray's writing continued to influence and shift the movement for justice. In 1943, Murray published 2 important essays on civil rights: Negroes Are Fed Up and Common Sense, and an article about the Harlem race riots in the socialist newspaper, New York Call. Her most famous poem, Dark Testament, was also written in that year. In 1944, Pauli Murray graduated at the top of her law school class. It was at Howard that she also became acutely aware of the oppression she faced as a Black woman, coining the term Jane Crow to describe her experience. The Rosenwald Fellowship was awarded to the valedictorian, and previous top graduates had used the fellowship to attend Harvard University. Despite winning the fellowship, Murray was rejected from Harvard Law School due to sexism, echoing previous rejections that Murray experienced. Instead, Murray went to the University of California Boalt School of Law, where she received an LLM, Master of Laws degree. Her master's thesis was titled, "The Right to Equal Opportunity in Employment." After graduation, Murray returned to New York City. Soon after, her book, States Law on Race and Color, was published in 1951. Thurgood Marshall described the book as the Bible for civil rights litigators. In 1952, she lost a U.S. State Department post at Cornell University because the people who had supplied her references, Eleanor Roosevelt, Thurgood Marshall, and A. Philip Randolph, were considered too radical. She was told in a letter that Cornell decided to give 100% protection to the university in view of the troublous times in which we live. In 1956, Murray published Proud Shoes, The Story of an American Family, a biography of how white supremacy and anti-Blackness oppressed her grandparents in their efforts of racial uplift, and a poignant portrayal of their hometown of Durham, North Carolina. Shortly after the book came out, Murray was offered a job in the litigation department at a new law firm, Paul, Weiss, Rifkin, Wharton, and Garrison. While working there, Murray met her partner, Irene Barlow, the office manager at the law firm. In 1960, Murray traveled to Ghana to explore her African cultural roots and teach law. While there, she co-authored a book, The Constitution and Government of Ghana, with Leslie Rubin. When Murray returned, she enrolled at Yale Law School, where she studied for the JSD degree and mentored several young women activists, including Marion Wright Edelman, Eleanor Holmes Norton, and Patricia Roberts Harris, who all became leaders in their own right. President John F. Kennedy appointed Pauli Murray to the Committee on Civil and Political Rights as a part of his Presidential Commission on the Status of Women. In the early 1960s, Murray worked closely with A. Philip Randolph, Bayard Rustin, and Dr. Martin Luther King, but was critical of the way that men dominated the leadership of these civil rights organizations. In August 1963, she wrote to Randolph and asserted that she had, and I quote, been increasingly perturbed over the blatant disparity between the major role which Negro women have played and are playing in the crucial grassroots level of our struggle and the minor role of leadership they have been assigned in the national policy-making decisions. Pauli Murray joined Betty Friedan and others to found the National Organization for Women, also known as NOW, in 1966, but later moved away from a leading role because she did not believe that NOW appropriately addressed the issues of Black and working class women. From 1968 to 1973, Dr. Pauli Murray served as a faculty member at Brandeis University, teaching an early American Studies program. Following the death of her long-term partner, Irene Barlow, Murray left her tenured position to become a candidate for ordination at General Theological Seminary. And in 1977, Pauli Murray became the first African-American woman in the U.S. to become an Episcopal priest. Pauli Murray died of cancer in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on July 1st, 1985. Her autobiography, Song in a Weary Throat, An American Pilgrimage, was published posthumously in 1987. Her book was re-released as Pauli Murray, the Autobiography of a Black Activist, Feminist, Lawyer, Priest, and Poet, also in 1987, and was republished under its original title in 2018. A biography of Reverend Dr. Pauli Murray was released on Amazon Prime in 2021. You can also visit the Pauli Murray family home in Durham, North Carolina. It was designated a national treasure by the National Trust for Historic Preservation in 2015 and a National Historic Landmark by the National Park Service in 2016. As written on the Murray family website, African American history, women's history, LGBTQ history, and activist history are important and need to be remembered and shared widely. Pauli Murray understood the power of history and the power of monuments and historic places. Only 2% of the 95,000 entries in the National Register of Historic Places focus on the experience of African Americans. To help shatter this statistic, the Pauli Murray Center will be a leader and model to other communities who want to know, share, and lift up the accomplishments and struggles of women, people of color, and queer folk in their communities and this country. Inspiring activism will lead the way to Pauli Murray's dream for a just world. It is our hope that the center will launch the next generation of Pauli Murray firebrand leaders, smart, motivated, and determined activists who will demand a world that enables all ideas, amplifies many voices, and honors everyone's contributions.